life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. And when we mention this quote today, we have an innovation driven corporate setup that aims at bringing down the carbon emissions through sustainable development and asset management ways. And that is completely being backed by data driven researches being done through that platform. And this also helps in saving the environment in many ways. So here we mentioned today about the Curio Sigma that strongly believes in curating, engaging, and presenting unique experiences to their clients that are not just environment friendly but are also affordable at that same time. And for that, to mention, when we mention about Curio Sigma, we among us we have the founder and CEO of Curio Sigma, Mr. Saheb. A very warm welcome, sir. Thank you so much for your presence here and a few
Thank
words.
you, Uday. Thank you so much, Uday. And I've been looking forward to this. I was associated with BizNation and Global Business Cycles since a long time, and looking forward to this podcast. Thank you so much
Pleasure
for
having
having
you.
me here.
Pleasure having you. All right. So when we talk about Curio Sigma, it is a very unique name when we think about any organization. So how did the idea of Curio Sigma emerge, and how old is the organization?
So I was just sitting in my office, and I belong from hospitality background. The
Okay.
hotels were very badly hit by because of COVID-19. So sitting there, I have always been inclined towards entrepreneurship and innovation. I mean, I love, curating new startup models, business models, and keep experimenting them in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the business models was Curio Sigma. And just like that, sitting in the office, I came across this idea of sustainable construction. And further to it, I presented that idea to my partner, my team. We took that forward, built on it. And from sustainable construction, we also expanded into asset management. So that is how we have been and we are further expanding going forward. When we talk of the name Curio, it basically means something intriguing and unusual. So going forward, when I will mention what my product range is, what our building materials are, what our services is, that would be very much relatable to the name that I'm presenting today.
Right. So you, as you rightly mentioned in the conversation we'll be having right now, is you'll be mentioning about various product lines and what how you're dealing in that. So I'll just like to ask that how is Curio helping in saving the environment, and
Yeah,
what are their sources of usage to build such designs, as you rightly will mention right now?
correct. So, the core aspect of our business is sustainable construction. And when we talk of sustainable construction, since 50 years and even more than that, actually, we have been talking about brick and mortar. Okay, if you want to build something, you use brick and mortar to construct that particular infrastructure. But with Curio, the story is a bit different. We are using some eco-friendly building materials and some innovative building materials like shipping containers to construct buildings. We have shipping containers, we have bamboo, we have rammed earth, we have timber as well. And going forward, anything scrap and useless you see outside on the streets, we take that up, we convert that into a solid building material and use that in our construction. So that is, of course, they're using eco-friendly building products. Now, our USP is shipping containers, using shipping containers to build infrastructure. And for each container that we upcycle, we are saving up to 3,500 kgs of steel. So it is not only global carbon emissions that we're working on, it is also the steel aspect that we are catering to. Plus, having a sustainable design alongside materials, it's very important to have a sustainable design because any building that we sit in is consuming 40 to 45% energy consumption is always there, be it electricity, be it water, or anything else related to energy. So that designing aspect is extremely important for us. How do we plan the entire interiors? How do we plan the architecture? And for which geography is that particular building material well suitable? That
Okay.
actually plays a very important role so
Okay.
that the energy consumption is as low as possible.
Okay, and so, when you talk about sustainable design and energy consumption at the same time, in that I'll just like to ask that how much time does it involve in having that kind of structure which you're just mentioning and giving us an imaginary figure of how much time does it take and how much is the cost of a basic project, and will can it be affordable for a middle class person?
Right. So if we talk of the time span for completing the project, Of course, it completely depends on the intensity of the project. So major brainstorming and time consumption is in the R&D and the designing bit. Because if we are very confident of our research, only then we move to the designing part of the business. If
Right.
we are very confident of the designs that we are making on papers, only then we implement that in the ground. Now, the actual time starts from the R&D process, which can take it can be completed within a week if the intensity is not very high, but
Okay.
it can also go up till 2 to 3 to almost 4 months of R&D and designing process. But when we talk of construction, which is the most important thing in Indian market today, minimum time span for building a building with Curio is 100 days.
Okay.
Like ideally in brick and mortar, it's going to take more than 12 to 24 months. In our case, it's going to take almost minimum 100 days up till maximum 300 days. That is how our business model works.
And when we talk about how affordable it is for a middle class person to opt such kind of
Correct.
building.
So any sustainable building that you come across, when we talk of from investors' point of view, if we see it is minimum 30% cheaper than brick and
Okay.
mortar.
Okay.
But when you also talk of reselling that property, so the sustainability aspects that we use, the solar panel installation is there, the designing process is there. So our whole purpose is to, over the time span, we take that real estate from value to valuation.
Okay.
So that if you're investing minimum 30% cheaper during construction, you're selling double of what you had invested in the property.
Uh, what are the designs being done by Curio called, and what is the data which you require when you are curating such kind of designs?
So when we talk of the designing, so we have named shipping container construction by the name of cargo texture.
Okay.
So it's like cargo plus architecture combined. We made it cargo texture. And when we talk of the designing bit, we can design almost anything from a small office or a security cabin up till a big farmhouse or a commercial estate in it.
Okay.
Now, since we're talking of designing, we are also working on, in fact, we have also started implementing that, the hybrid structures. Hybrid structure can be, it's going to be a combination of shipping containers and cement. It's going to be a combination of shipping containers and stones or shipping containers and timber, bamboo. You're getting different building materials together to one infrastructure. That is what hybrid construction is. So that is how we are designing right now. And
Okay.
when we
So
talk of date, yeah.
yeah. So this is basically a real estate project only, right? So how different is this kind of project from a basic real estate project, or so we can say whatever is happening in the market? How different is this real estate project exactly?
Correct. So I'll list down a few challenges related to infrastructure and real estate industry, and then I'll work out on the solutions with you on how exactly Curio is solving that. So, since 50 years, there is no major innovation in engineering and construction industry. That's one. Second, there has been quite injudicious use of real estate. Now, assumingly on one piece of land where through our model where you can have almost 20 resort rooms, right now you only have 10. So that is how real estate is being used unjudiciously at present in the Indian market.
Ha, ha, ha.
Then we talk of construction time period, of course. That plays a very important role. Now, assumingly, if there is a hotel company that wants to penetrate the market, it will take them more than almost 3 to 4 years to do that with a
Right.
conventional style. But if you go with Curio, it's going to take less than a year to actually penetrate the market. So you're
Okay.
saving up to more than 3 years business in your kitty.
And you are
And
generating revenue early as well.
early as well, right?
Right.
So that's of course there. I mentioned about the energy consumption earlier, and yeah, and so when we talk of sustainability in specific in any real estate model, it's very important to know that investment is low, but when it comes to reselling that particular product, it is double of what you had invested. So that
Okay.
is the power of sustainable real estate in the Indian market right now.
So we can say that rightly it is a future
It
which
is
will
the
boom.
future. It is the future. It has just started to step in, and it's quite a bit unorganized in India. So that is why
Okay.
we need proper corporate setups to organize all these sectors.
All right. So you mentioned various kind of setups which you can build through Curio. It can be a small office to a security room to big farmhouses as well, right? So
Correct.
I'll just like to ask here that what are the sectors the Curio is dealing currently? What are you dealing currently at present?
Right. So, when we talk of construction, right now we have a major clientele in resorts and farmhouse. And when we talk of asset management, so our team's core comes from hospitality industry.
Okay.
And in asset management, our clientele is only hospitality and luxury retail right now. But moving forward, we are also expanding into residential and commercial estates.
Right. Okay. So that is the about the expansion plan, and I see a very young generation as we have been doing video podcasts since more than an year now, right? So we have been seeing many of the younger generations like myself, like you, coming up and stepping up in the field of entrepreneurship. So from your perspective, from your experience till now, what will be your advice to the upcoming or aspiring entrepreneurs? Whatever you have learned from your experiences, if you'd like to share that.
Yeah. So I'd say one which also happens to be our company's tagline, and this particular line has been with me since my school days, which
Okay.
is if nothing changes, nothing changes. So that change is your constant. That is of course there, but how exactly you're utilizing that constant change in your life and in the society matters a lot,
Right.
because it can be changed for your good, it can be changed for your bad. It's up to you how you're utilizing it. And the second advice I would like to give is give up on your securities. And in typical, if I have to say in the Indian language, जाओ जाके market के धक्के खाओ, ताकि समझ आएगा कि what exactly is going on out there, the
Right.
reality which is way apart from your BBA and MBA books.
Definitely. So it was great having you, and we'll conclude this podcast here. And I'll also ask you if you would like to add any concluding words before we do that.
Yeah, so I would like to conclude mentioning two parts. I would first like to conclude on behalf of Curio, since I'm representing that firm here.
Right.
So I would say Curio is a firm owned, run, and being operated by a very young team. We have a team of more than 10 people, and most of them are millennials right now. And we are into sustainable construction, hospitality, asset management. Our core comes from hotel industry and travel industry. So that is as well as infrastructure and architecture. So I'd say Curio is a young team. It's a very dynamic team. The sector is quite a bit unorganized in India. That is why we are here to organize our entire field in it within the country. Moving forward, there is a big chance and a very big opportunity for the sustainable construction and asset management firms within India. It is approximately $54.50 billion market that has been left unpenetrated. It is
Hmm.
completely unpenetrated. So that is the kind of opportunity. I would like to request all the construction companies, real estate agents, and hospitality firms within India to have a look at this industry, have a look at this field, explore this field more. Um, it's going to contribute to the environment, of course. Definitely, it's going to do that, but it's also going to add a lot of value to the investors that you have in your portfolio. So that's my concluding part on behalf of Curio. On personal note, I would like to thank you there. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Pleasure
It
having you.
was wonderful talking to you. And my message to everyone is you need to be ought to be number one. So just make sure you're out there in the market. You are, I mean, having your blood, sweat, and tears right there in front of your clients. You're presenting the best product ever with complete utmost confidence. And that's the most important thing. So
All
thank you
right.
so much, Uday, and
My pleasure,
glad you
pleasure,
had me
pleasure
here.
having you, and look forward to see you at the conference as well.
Same here. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Uday.
Thank you. Thank you.